Hello everyone, wishing you all a very good afternoon.
There's no one, sir. We are only we both.
Hello.
No one has joined yet, sir.
Okay, who is this?
I'm Dikshit, sir.
Okay, Richard, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Okay. Did you have your JEE Mains exam? When was your exam? The last attempt? Did you appear for the last attempt?
I appeared on 26th evening shift, sir.
And
I think I
how,
did.
how was the paper?
Physics was quite easy, but chemistry was moderate, sir.
Chemistry was moderate, so you could not score much in chemistry. That's what I guess, right?
No, sir. Maths was like quite tough.
Maths was quite tough. So you find physics the easiest of the all, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So anyway, so uh, is the answer key out? Did you check your answers, or I mean, have you checked your answer? How? What is
No,
the
sir.
score you're
Until
expecting?
September 2nd, we have exams only. BR.
Okay, so September 2nd, JE paper 2 you are having, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so attempt it. I have no idea about that paper, frankly speaking. But I mean, the year last year, one of my students he topped that exam, and he said that it was very simple. His name was Adit Kudre. So 2020 he topped that BARC exam. And he told me that it is very simple. His rank in mains was 17, yeah, 17. Advanced it was 20, and he topped BARC. He told me it is simple. So I hope that it's simple. I have not much idea about it, but yeah. Anyways, wishing you luck for the exam.
Just have
Yes,
a doubt, sir.
yes,
In this
ask me.
remaining 30 days, what can we do so that we can improve our rank in advance to 2000, something like that?
Mm, what I can suggest you is very simple. What you know, you work hard on that. What you have not learned till now, or what you are not confident, you will leave that portion. It's as simple as that. To get a good rank in JE Advanced, if I talk about JE Advanced, you should get somewhere around 30 to 40% of the marks. Even if you get 30 to 40% of the total marks, you are assured of a seat in an IIT. So if the exam is for 400 marks, 30 to 40%, somewhere in the range of 160, if you get, you should be there with a seat in IIT. So you must aim for that, and do not look for things that you don't know, because there is not enough time left that you can do everything. That is what we are trying to do in this class. I'm trying to cover all those topics that I think can be worth scoring. Okay, so if you just read the sheets that I have sent you, I've sent you very small ones. For example, this entire rotation, I've sent you only 44 pages PDF. It is very small. Just go through them. I mean, if you have never studied rotation before, you can leave everything probably. What I'm telling you is what questions I expect that are going to come, and I think you should be able to solve them. So I'm just concentrating on those parts. Are you getting me? So whatever I send you, if you just have a read through it, if you just go through the entire material that I've sent you in terms of the theory part, each and every theory part is covered. And only the solved example, if you can do, I can assure you that you will get around 40 to 45 to 50% in physics. I can assure you that. The questions will be coming from this part that I have sent you. Now, how much you have done is up till you. I can assure you that much. And I'm trying to get you to somewhere around 50% in physics. That is my aim. So if you get around 50% in physics, you are done with your physics. Then if you get 40% chemistry, you should be able to get around 60 to 70%, because chemistry is the easiest one. If you get 60% in chemistry, 50% in physics, even 30% in maths, will get you into an IIT. So that is the plan of action. Do you understand this, Dikshit?
Yes, sir.
So that is how we'll go, and that is why I'm constraining myself to whatever I think can be done in this short span of time. I've sent you this PDF of rotational motion. There is different cases that I've given you for a body rolling down. This question has come many times. This question can even come now. It can come in the form of a matched falling. It can be of 6 marks. It can be of 8 marks. So if you can just go through them, I'm sure you will be able to solve it. Are you watching the recorded lectures of those classes that you have missed?
Sir, I think those are not available in the app, sir.
They must be available in a day or two. Don't worry. I'll ask the office people to get you the um, videos as soon as possible. Don't worry about that. Just concentrate on the class. Let us do what we are supposed to do in this class. Again, a quick recap of what you should know in rotation. And if a question comes on this, you should be able to do it. Do you know what is a force couple? Two forces equal in magnitude.
Yes, sir.
Lines of action are parallel or anti-parallel. This is anti-parallel. So what do you have here? The net force is 0. So this will not move transitionally, but it will create a torque, and there will be rotational motion. What will be the torque produced by this couple? Remember this, one of the forces multiplied by the distance between the two forces, that is the combined torque, that you must remember, because this question can come in a different way. Oops, see, something is wrong. Just give me a minute. I'll just get this thing working. So basically, what we are going to do here, where is this? Yeah, I think you got it. Okay. So basically, a force couple, I mean, my camera okay now? I think it is okay. Okay. So a force couple is going to create a torque that is equal to force multiplied by 2D. Do you understand this here? Simple thing, because this might help you in solving a problem that comes in the JEE. Okay. Point of application of force, you can leave this. Uh, doesn't make any sense going into this. Rotation about a fixed axis. So basically, what is going to happen here is any body is going to rotate about a fixed axis. The axis is not going to change. So the simplest example of this thing would be a rod which is hinged over here and it is rotating like this. This is a simple example of a rotation about fixed axis, or a pulley which is rotating about a fixed axis. The questions here are pretty damn simple. For example, this is one question that you can make here. One question could be of this nature, where you have a pulley and you have two masses M1 and M2 attached here. Do you know this question? And then you have pulley whose moment of inertia is given as I. You are supposed to find out the acceleration of these blocks and the angular acceleration of the pulley. Do we have an idea about these questions? So what do? This will move with an acceleration A. This will move with an acceleration A. This will rotate with an acceleration angular acceleration alpha. Have you done question of this nature? Yes or no?
Yes, sir, I think so.
Yes. So we can just simply make equation. For example, equation of this block will be M2G minus T will be equal to M2A. Yes or no? Will the tension be same on both sides, or will it be different on both sides? Will the tension be same on both sides, or will the tension be different on both sides of the pulley? Now remember, here when we are going to talk about pulley, this pulley is going to rotate. Now if the pulley is going to rotate, there would be friction between the pulley and the rope. Now because of this friction between the pulley and the rope has the pulley has to rotate. If the tension on both the sides of the pulley is same, there will not be any torque on it to rotate. So therefore the tension must be different on the two sides. Do we understand this? So equation of this block becomes M2G minus T2 equal to M2A. The equation of this block becomes T1 minus M1G is equal to M1A. The acceleration have to be same, otherwise the pulley will extend or pulley will contract, which cannot happen. The string will extend or string will contract, which cannot happen. Now remember, whenever a question of this nature comes, where there is, and there will be a thing given to you that there is no slipping between the pulley and the rope, or there is no slipping between the body and the ground, or between a block and the sphere. Why is that given? Why is that no slipping condition given? No slipping means pure rolling. Here it is not rolling, here it's pure rotating. There is no slipping between the rope and the pulley. What does that tell you? Why it is that given? It is given so that you can find out the relation between A and alpha. We call it the constraint relation. I can call it the constraint relation. Are we getting my point? We can call it the constraint relation. And here in this case, if I draw a bigger diagram of this pulley here, now listen to me very carefully. I'm talking about 2 points. Point number 1 and point number 2. Now this point number 2 is point on the rope. This point on the rope is going down with an acceleration A. Are you getting me, everyone? This point on the rope is going down with an acceleration A. Now this point number 1, which is on the pulley, it is rotating with an angular acceleration alpha. So if I talk about the tangential acceleration of this point, it will be equal to alpha into r, where r happens to be the radius of this pulley. Are you getting me, everyone? Can I have some reason that we understand this? Dixit is getting me. What about others? Bhojraju, Sudha, Ashrit, do we understand this? So there is no slipping between point 1 and point 2, and therefore we have A is equal to alpha r. This is a very important aspect of the entire equation, because whenever a question of rotation comes and there is no slipping, you will always be short of one equation. Always one equation will be less. And how do you get that equation? That equation you will only get from the constraint relation. And how will you get that constraint relation? That will be achieved from the condition of no slipping. Do we understand this clearly? I will come back to this question when we solve probably this question where there is a plank kept on a smooth surface, and then there is a cylinder kept on the upper surface. Most of the students, as soon as they see this question, they get, oh, I can't solve this. Then you have a force applied on this. You have to find the acceleration of the plank and the thing, and everyone gets confused how to solve this. I can solve this question in 3 different ways, but I'll only tell you one, which I think you should be able to do it in the examination hall. Remember, wherever there is a condition of no slipping given, always you will be falling short of one equation. That equation has to be the equation of constraint relation between different accelerations and different angular acceleration. This is the question that I was talking about. This is the question here. See, this is the question here. Equation number 1, equation number 2. Then we have the equation for rotation of this pulley, and then you have the constraint relation. Where is the constraint relation they have put? They have put the constraint relation straight away. They have not talked about this constraint relation. They have said that the constraint relation is A by R. Remember this constraint relation. Okay, do we get this? Similar question here. The rod is falling down. You can find out the angular acceleration, tangential acceleration. I think you can do this, right? Yes or no? Torque is equal to I alpha. Just find out the torque, equate it to I alpha, you will get the angular acceleration, then you can get the tangential acceleration, then you can get the centripetal acceleration from omega square r. These type of questions can also come. So what they have done here is taken any point will have a tangential acceleration like this, and then centripetal acceleration like this. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this, sir? To get this tangential acceleration, find out this alpha multiplied by the distance. To get this centripetal acceleration, find out omega multiplied by omega square r. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hands? No one understands this? Dikshit? What about the others? Vishnu? Okay. Ashrit, Bhojaraju, Sudha? Okay. Have a look at this question. Similar question has come here. Find the angular acceleration, find the force exerted by the image just after the rod is released from this. What you got to do? Just draw the free body diagram. This is mg, so this is mg cos, this is mg sine. What is the torque created by this force? Force multiplied by perpendicular distance, that should be equal to I alpha. So from there you get the value of alpha. Yes or no? Then you can find the tangential acceleration. The only problem is, how do you get the value of this normal reaction N1? Find the hinge. Find the force exerted by the hinge on the rod just after the rod is released from rest. How did you get this? How do you get the value of this N1? Anyone tell me? The equation is already there in front of you. How did I get the value of this N1? How did I get the value of this N1? Anyone? No one. See, rotation is difficult to understand. I understand that. Rotation is difficult to understand. Why is difficult to understand? Because we have not paid enough attention when it was taught to us in the first place. I'll tell you how this equation is achieved. Give me time. This is a rod. It is in pure rotation, let us say. It is in pure rotation, let us say. So what happens? It just rotates with an angular acceleration alpha with an angular velocity omega. This is in pure rotation. Now remember, any motion of this, if I throw this pen upwards, it just moves like this. So basically, if I look at the motion of this pen, it is a combined motion of translational as well as rotation. Combined motion of translation as well as rotation. But at any instant of time, I can assume that this is pure rotation. And it rotates about an axis and it rotates about a center. I call it instantaneous center of rotation or instantaneous axis of rotation. Do you know that? Instantaneous axis of rotation or instantaneous center of rotation. If a ball is in pure rolling about the point of contact, we can assume that it is in pure rotation. Do we remember that? Anyone? Do you remember that? Anyone? So any complicated motion that you see can be thought of as a motion, as a translation, as a combination of translation motion of the center of mass and rotation about the center of mass. Translation motion of this body about the center of mass and rotational motion of this body about the center of mass. This body is in pure rotation, but still I can think it of as consisting of two motion. Either I can say this, that it is in pure rotation about this axis, pure rotation. So this becomes this ICR, instantaneous axis of rotation or instantaneous center of rotation. Or I can think it of as a combination of translational motion of the center of mass and the rotation of the body about the center of mass. Now this equation that I have made is a translational equation of the center of mass. So we write out all the forces that are acting on this body completely and use this equation as the translational equation. Are you getting my point? How I got the value of this normal reaction N1? Can I have some reason that we understand this? Any motion, whether it is a pure rotation, can be thought of as a combination of two motion, translational motion of center of mass and rotation about the center of mass. And to get the value of this normal reaction N1, they have written the translational equation of this entire body about the center of mass. So that is how you get it. How do I get this normal reaction N2? There is no motion along this direction, so this must be equal to this. The translational acceleration is only along the perpendicular direction. There is no acceleration along the horizontal direction. And that is how you have got this equation. And in the beginning, there is no angular velocity, so there is no centripetal force. That is why they've equated these two forces. Equilibrium, you must have read about this equilibrium. When the net force acting on a body is zero, then the body is in translational equilibrium. No translational moment. If the net torque is zero, the body is in rotational equilibrium. If both these conditions are met, then the body is in complete equilibrium, and that is how we define equilibrium. Now, if torque is zero about 1 point, the body is in equilibrium. It will be zero about any point in the universe. Please remember this. Please remember this. If the body is in equilibrium, you can equate the torque about any point and equate it to zero, because that is how the body remains in rotational equilibrium. Do we understand this? And there are simple questions. For example, this question, example number 36, a ladder, the wall is smooth, the other end rests on a rough surface. So rough surface, there will be friction. So here it is friction, and we have to find out the normal force and the frictional force. Frictional force is always equal to mu mg, right? So I can simply write mu mg and find out this frictional force. No, remember, this is static friction. In rotation and other problems, you will be coming across static friction. Whenever they say pure rolling, rolling without slipping, rope is slipping, a rope is, there is no slipping between the rope and the pulley. The friction has to be static in nature. And as soon as you get static friction, voila, you don't know the value. So you have to always take static friction as Fs. It is always an unknown quantity. Are you getting my point? Static friction is always unknown. It's always an unknown. You cannot take the value of static friction ever beforehand. If it is slipping, then you have kinetic friction, and you know the value of kinetic friction is mu into n, not mu into mg, it's mu into n. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this, sir? Whenever something is not moving or rolling without slipping or no slipping between two bodies, friction has to be static and value of static friction is unknown. Draw the forces, weight, normal reaction N1, normal reaction N2, frictional force. You equate the force in the horizontal direction. This should be equal to this. You equate the force in the vertical direction. Upward should be equal to downwards. Still, there are three unknowns and two equations. You need a question. Do you need an equation for rotational torque? Take the torque about any point. You can take it about this point. If you take it about this point, F and N2 cancels away. You will get the value of N1. Once you get the value of N1, everything else can be sorted out. Do you understand this, or am I clear, or is it getting too much, too quick, too soon? Vishnu, Dikshit, are we there in the class?
Yes, sir, clear.
Clear. Okay. So, if this type of question comes, you should be able to do it. Again, similar question. This army sitting on this, his weight is coming downwards, and there is tension in this thing. These two tensor are internal forces, they will cancel out each other. I think such questions can be done. I hardly feel that these questions can come. Similarly, here tension here is T1, tension here is T2. The weight of this block will go from somewhere mg. You can equate the forces in the upward and the downward direction, but there are two unknowns and only one equations. Then you calculate torque about any point, equate it to zero, and you will end up with the value of TA and TB. I don't think that would create such a big problem. Angular momentum, I've already told you, R cross P, R vector cross P vector. Angular linear tangential velocity was omega cross R. This is R cross P. Torque is R cross F. I've told you everything about this. There is nothing. This question has come many times. This is a projectile. Find the angular momentum of this projectile, about the point of projection. This is the general answer that you get. This is the general answer that you get. So you can remember this general answer. You can remember the general answer, or you can just find it out. It's very simple. Nothing too complicated here, right? Yes or no? Again, it is moving with a constant velocity mu. What is the talk about this point? It is always constant. Many a times students have made stupid mistake on this question. That is the distance is increasing and hence the angular momentum will not remain constant. It always remains constant. Even a very famous sir was not very convinced with this answer. Anyways, that is the answer. Example number 41. Again, this is, I think, a projectile. What is the angular momentum about this point? About this point, it is mu cos theta multiplied by a height. This is u sin mu sin theta multiplied by the range. So it is very simple. As you can see, there is nothing more simpler than this one. And again, there is a question of projectile. Find out the angular momentum about the y-axis, about the z-axis, about the y-axis y-axis and the motion is happening in the same plane. If the axis and momentum lie in the same plane, there cannot be any angular momentum or torque. We have discussed this. If you want to find out the torque of a force about any axis, they cannot lie in the same plane. They have to be skew lines. Do we understand this? Skew lines? Skew lines? I told you in the last class. Angular momentum and torque are similar quantities because we calculate them in a similar way. The formula is similar. One is R cross F, the other one is R cross P. F and R, to both are vectors, so they have the similar cross. But angular momentum about a fixed axis, angular momentum, I told you, L about any axis will always be equal to I into omega about the axis. Did I tell you all that or not? Yes or no? I tell you that. I told you that. Remember, this is not a vector equation. I specifically told you that I cannot write it like this. I cannot write it like this. It is an actual equation. It is written along the axis. Do we remember this? Do I have some clue? Raise hand that we understand this, sir. Or torque is equal to I alpha. It is not a vector equation. I cannot write it like this. It is always torque along axis is equal to I along axis multiplied by alpha along axis. Anyways. Example number 44, two particles of mass each are attached to a light rod of length d, one of its center and other at the free end. So one is at the center, other is the free end. The rod is fixed at the other end, is rotated in a plane with an angular velocity omega. This is angular velocity omega. Calculate the angular momentum. Such questions can come. It is a pretty simple question. I hope you can do this. Find the angular momentum of the particle at the end with respect to particle at the center. So angular momentum of this L of B with respect to A. L of B with respect to A. How will you get it? Angular momentum of B with respect to A. To get that, you have to get the velocity of B with respect to A. I think you can get the velocity of B with respect to A. That will be equal to omega into d by 2. Velocity of body point B is omega into d. Velocity of point A will be omega into d by 2 in the same direction. So the velocity of B with respect to A will be omega into d minus omega into d by 2, omega into d by 2 multiplied by m, and you get your answers. That will be the momentum multiplied by r. That will be your answer. Remember, r here is the distance between the point A and point B. This is what you must remember. Do we understand this? And this can be done. Conservation of angular momentum. I told you angular impulse, angular momentum theorem. If the torque acting on a particle is zero, its angular momentum remains conserved. Torque can be zero along one particular axis. So in that particular axis, we can conserve angular momentum. This is the mother theorem, impulse momentum theorem, angular impulse, angular momentum theorem. If there is angular impulse, angular momentum will change. Change in that angular momentum is the angular impulse. This is a very simple question that should be done by you guys. Here we have mass m, length L ka ek rod hinged at point H. Then some bullet, I think, is striking it. A point mass having some same mass m, same speed u, with speed u perpendicular rod strikes inelastically at the free end. That means it will get stuck. Find the velocity of rod just after collision. I think you can do this, right? So how will you do this? Anyone? So here angular momentum is conserved about the point H, because whatever reactions act, it acts at point H. They will not create any torque about point H. Whatever interaction that is happening between the bullet and the rod are internal reactions, internal forces, which are, what should I say, impulsive forces, but impulsive forces will cancel out each other. So whatever force this body is going to exert on this body will exert the same force, so that they get cancelled. So angular momentum is conserved about this point. Initial angular momentum is MUL. Final will be the total moment of inertia multiplied by omega, and from there you can get the value of omega. Are you able to do this? Do we understand this? Please raise your hands and tell me that you have done this. Sudha, Bhojaraju, Ashrit, Vishnu, Dikshit. Great. Law of conservation of angular momentum. Now, similar problem, but again, I have made it. This problem becomes very complicated because now this rod can also move. Now, if this rod can also move, there is no reaction coming from the hinge. I will not be discussing this question because I don't think that we can solve this question in the scenario of an examination hall. So I'll just leave this question. No, not possible for us to discuss this. Yes, but we can do question of this type. Question number 48 here. What is happening here is same thing: mass m, velocity u, striking the rod, mass m, length l. You have to simply apply the law of conservation of angular momentum. That's simple. You only do questions of rotation which you are confident about. The rod is free to rotate and move. It becomes a very complicated question. Simple mistake and you will miss out on the time and also the marks. So I will not discuss that. This question is same as what we have discussed in the previous question. Not only thing is distance is different. Anyways, combined translation and rotation motion of a rigid body. So what do we do in this case? This body is in combination motion. So combination motion means, now I told you any body which is free to rotate will always rotate about the center of mass, because about the center of mass, its velocity, its inertia, moment of inertia is the least. Now any motion of any body can be thought of as a translational motion of the center of mass and rotation of that about the center of mass. Now this motion becomes the easiest in the center of frame of the body, because then only you see, if you sit at the center of the body and start to move with it, you only see pure rotation. So if you want to find the velocity of any point, with respect to ground, this is simple vector relation, will be velocity of that point with respect to center of mass plus velocity of center of mass with respect to ground. What I have done here is put center of mass the C in between, and then you can find out the velocity of A with respect to ground. Are we getting this point? So I think you should be able to get the velocity of A with respect to O, that is velocity of A with respect to center of mass, velocity of A, B, C, D. These all velocities are with respect to ground. So how do you do this? Just apply simple vector relations. Velocity of A with respect to O is in pure rotation or circular motion, omega cross AO, omega multiplied by R. Let's simply get these values. The velocity of A with respect to O will be in this direction, this will be in this direction, this will be in this direction, this will be in this direction. We all know this, right? Yes or no? This will be omega R in this direction, this will be omega R in this direction, this will be omega R in this direction, and this will be omega R in this direction. We know this or not? Yes or no? Can I have some reason that we know this? Okay, ठीक है. So this is one question that you should be able to solve. Then you have to find the velocity of A with respect to ground. Just add the velocity of A with respect to O with the velocity of O with respect to ground, and you are done. These type of questions can come, and that is why we have discussed this. Pure rolling. Now, at this point, if the body is rotating and the center of mass is moving, the velocity of this point becomes V minus omega R. If this point is at rest, or V is equal to omega R, there is no slipping between these 2 points. This point can be between a plank and a sphere. Between sphere and ground, if there is no slipping, so the condition is V is equal to omega R. Or if the acceleration is A and angular acceleration is alpha, the relation becomes alpha is equal A is equal to alpha R. Do we understand this, everyone? We understand this, everyone? A wheel of radius r is rolling without slipping on a level road. Find the velocity of point A and point B. What will the velocity of point A and point B? What will be the velocity of point A and point B? Point A ka velocity pure rolling, so V is equal to omega r. Velocity of point A will be how much? It will be definitely 0. What about velocity of point B? It will be 2 times V or 2 times omega r. So V and omega r will get added up for the top. V and omega r will get subtracted. So the answer for the lowest point is 0 and answer for the highest point is 2 times omega r. Do we get this or not? Can I have some raised hand that we understand this, sir? Okay. But there is no point of doing previous year questions because previous year questions are not going to get repeated. I don't know why everyone is so interested of getting previous year questions. Did you ever find a question in JEE Advanced that got repeated? I have not seen it. There is no point of doing previous year question. We should be trying to do those questions which we think can come in the exam. Dynamics of general motion. How do you find question of general motion? So we make equation. The first equation is torque is equal to I alpha. The second equation is external force is equal to M into ACM. F external is equal to M into ACM. The momentum of the system is M into VCM. Total kinetic energy will be half into VCM square plus half I into omega square. Angular momentum over the center of mass will be ICM into omega. So these are the simple things that you must remember about solving any question in rotational motion. The question that we are doing are also from JEE. The only thing is the year is not written. They are all questions taken from previous papers of JEE. Trust me on that. Okay. For example, this one. Example number 52. A force F acts tangentially at the highest point of the sphere of mass M kept on a rough horizontal surface. If the sphere rolls without slipping, find the acceleration of the center C and point A and B on the sphere. How will you solve question of this nature? If this question comes, how will you solve the question of this nature? Any idea? Any idea, anyone? Please let me know. Any idea, anyone? How will you solve question of this nature? Okay. Now, the first thing that you must remember, what type of friction will act here? What type of friction will act here? There is rolling without slipping. So what type of friction acts here? The friction that acts here is static friction. Do we understand this or not? The friction that acts here is static friction. Do we understand this or not? Can I have some reason that we understand this, sir? The type of friction that acts here is static friction. Yes or no? We understand this. Okay. Now, as soon as you have static friction, there are two things that you must be very careful about. One is the direction, and the second thing is the magnitude. Now, the second thing is the magnitude. One thing is the direction. The first thing is the direction, and the second thing is the magnitude of static friction. Now, there is no way of knowing the magnitude of static friction. The magnitude of static friction will only be achieved because we'll only be able to get this magnitude once we have solved the question. Before that, without that, We cannot get the magnitude of the static friction. The other thing is getting the direction of the static friction. Now, is there any way of finding out the direction of the static friction? I'll not go much into the theory of this part, how I have achieved this or how we have got this. But let us say, for example, if I have this body and I apply a force here on this body at a distance x above the center of mass, how can I quickly find the direction of static friction? Let us know that the radius of the gyration of this body is k. Then you find out the value of this thing, k square. You find the value of k square and you find the value of xr. What is xr? X is the distance of this force from the center of mass and r is the radius of this body. If k square is equal to xr, the value of static friction is 0. You don't have to apply any static friction. If the value of k square is less than xr, if the value of k square is less than sr, static friction is forward. If k square is less than xr, static friction is forward. If k square is greater than xr, static friction is backward. Will you remember this? Have you seen this before? Have you seen this before? Will you remember this? If k square is less than xr, the static friction is forward. If k square is greater than xr, the value of static friction is backwards. Will you remember this? Have you noted this down? Remember this. Now, coming back to this question, here we have sphere of mass m. Sphere of mass m. The value of k for the sphere is how much? For a solid sphere, what is the value of k? K is the radius of gyration, or k square. What is the value of k square? Radius of gyration for this, it will be 2 by 5 of r squared. Yes or no? 2 by 5 r squared. Here the point here is on the top, so x is equal to r. So x multiplied by r becomes r squared. So this k square is less than xr. K square is less than xr. K square is less than xr, and hence the static friction is forwards. Do we understand this? The static friction is forward. Once you get the direction of the static friction, then you can simply make this equation. You find out the total force, which is F plus small f, that is equal to ma, mass into acceleration of the center of mass. Then you can apply the equation of torque. This torque will be like this torque will be like this, and it will be rotating like this. So that is your second equation. And the third equation will be between A and R. A will be equal to alpha R. That is the third equation. Equation number 1 between F and small f for translational motion. Equation number 2, rotational motion. Equation number 3 is the equation between A and alpha R. Explain how F is equal to F. See, very simple, beta. This is the block. Capital F is forward. Small f is always forward. It's also forward. And this is also moving forward. So I've applied Newton's second law of motion. F plus F is equal to m into A. That's it. You got this? F into F is m into A. F plus F is equal to m into A. Now the torque equation is, this is rotating like this. How friction forward, sir? I told you now. Condition k square is less than xr. That is why friction is forward. short. I've given you the short of the entire story. I've given you the moral of the entire story. If k square is less than xr, friction is forwards. Will you remember this? Will you remember this? K square is less than xr, friction is forward. Do you understand this, everyone? Vishnu, Dikshit, Sai Teja, Ashret, do you understand this, beta? Sudha, what is X, sir? Where were you when I was telling you this? This is X, sir. This is X. The distance of this force from the center of the body, that is X. In the case of this question, X was R because I've applied force on the top of the body. X is equal to R. So X into R becomes R squared. This was a solid sphere. Its moment of inertia is 2 by 5 mr square. From here, you can find the radius of gyration. Radius of gyration k squared will be equal to 2 by 5 r squared. Now, this 2 by 5 r squared is less than r squared, and hence friction is forward. Do we understand this? Okay, fine. See, so these are the things that you must remember. These are the things that you must remember. Try to understand better what we are doing here. What is here? What we are doing here is trying to solve questions only. I'm only giving you that part of the theory which is necessary to solve the question. If you don't know that much of theory, you will not be able to solve any question. And remember, we are talking about JEE Advanced here. Talking about JEE Advanced here. Questions are going to be tough. Now remember, in some cases, the friction is always backwards, which is the case of this body rolling down the inclined plane. The friction is always backwards. Also, if I apply force at the lower half, if I apply a force at the lower half, the friction will always be backwards. There is no way friction can be forward. So in this case, you know, friction is static and friction is backwards. Forward force is mg sine theta, backward force is friction, which is static. So this becomes the first equation. The second equation is for rotational motion. Only friction can rotate it because weight cannot rotate it. Weight is acting at the center of mass. Weight cannot rotate it. So the rotational equation becomes Fr is equal to I alpha. And then you have the third equation, A is equal to alpha into R. You use these three equations. The unknown quantities are F. Frictional force is the unknown quantity. A is the second unknown quantity. And alpha is the third unknown quantity. Three unknown quantities. Equation number 1, equation number 2, and equation number 3. You should be able to solve this. Are you getting me, everyone? Am I clear? Am I clear? Okay. Then we have instantaneous axis of rotation. What do you mean by instantaneous axis of rotation? As I told you, if a body is in combined motion, combined motion of translation and rotation, we can always find a point. You can always find a point or an axis about which it is rotating at that particular instant. That is known as instantaneous axis of rotation or instantaneous center of rotation, right? There are various ways to find this instantaneous axis of rotation. The simplest is for a body which is in pure rolling, the instantaneous axis of rotation or instantaneous center of rotation is the point of contact. Now, if this rod is moving like this, if this rod is moving, obtain an angle for angular velocity. How can you do this question? slightly displaced. It is slightly displaced. How will you get the angular velocity of this rod? If it is slightly displaced, this end will move here and this end will move here. How will you get the angular velocity of this rod? Any idea? A uniform rod of mass m and length L, vertically touching a vertical wall, slightly displaced, its lower end begins to slide. Obtain an expression for the angular velocity. How will you get it? How will you get it? The answer is here. How will you get it? So we do it by the concept of instantaneous axis of rotation. At any point, the angle between the rod and the floor is theta. The velocity of this point is like this. The velocity of this point is like this. If I take perpendiculars, this will be the instantaneous center of rotation or axis of rotation. I know I have not told you about instantaneous center rotation. I have given you an idea. So this rotates about this point with an angular velocity omega. You can very well find out the coordinates of this point. Then what? Then you simply apply law of conservation of energy. Law of conservation of energy. When it was like this, it had a potential energy. Now that potential energy is getting converted into kinetic energy plus potential energy. When the rod was straight, the potential energy was mgl by 2. When the rod is inclined at an angle of theta, the potential energy is mgl by 2 sine theta, yl by 2, because we are taking the center of the mass. So change in kinetic, change in potential energy is equal to gain in kinetic energy. They have used this. You can apply law of conservation of mechanical energy, one in the same thing. Here, the value of I is the moment of inertia about this point. How do you get the moment of inertia about this point? You have to find the moment of inertia about the center of mass, and you have to find the distance between the center of mass and this axis. I hope you understand how to do this. Once you get the value of moment of inertia, you should be able to get the angular velocity omega. There is a simpler version of this question. In the simpler version of this question, what they have given is they have given a velocity v. From this velocity v, you have to find the velocity of this point, and you have to find the angular velocity of the rod. Now that is the question which you are most likely to solve in an examination hall, because this question, if you make a simple mistake, you will not be able to solve it. This question has come in one of the JEs. Oh, in the event of this question coming again, which is not possible, have to be very careful. Have to be very careful about such question. Now here they have given different types of cases. I will not go into those cases because they are not going to come. This is one question which is from SC Verma. Similar questions have come in JE. What they do is a cylinder is given an angular velocity omega naught and is kept on a rough surface. Initial velocity is 0, so they have just rotated it and kept it. Find out the distance traveled by the cylinder before it performs pure rolling. So after some time, it will start to perform pure rolling. What is the work done and what is the distance traveled? Now, as long as it is slipping, friction is kinetic in nature. So it will stop it. Friction is kinetic. As soon as the friction is kinetic, you know the value of that kinetic friction. You know the value of this kinetic friction. This kinetic friction is going to apply torque on this. So you know the value of alpha. Once you get the value of alpha, you should be able to find out after how much distance After how much time its angular velocity is going to become zero from alpha? Then you can find out its velocity as a function of time. What will be the velocity? When this velocity v becomes equal to omega r, it will start to roll without slipping. So that is how you do questions of this nature. As you can see, this question has a very long method of doing it this way. Once you find out v, once you find out omega, once you find out alpha, this question is very lengthy and time consuming, but it can be done in a simpler way using work energy theorem. Work done by all forces should be equal to change in kinetic energy. Work done by gravity is zero. Work done by frictional force should be equal to change in kinetic energy. So you can try this question with this. Similar question can be made in this fashion. You rotate it and you also give it a velocity v. What will happen if your omega r is more than v? Friction will act in such a way that it reduces omega r and it increases v. If your v is more than omega r, it will try to act in such a way that v gets reduced and omega r increases up till a time when v and omega r the final value becomes same, v is equal to omega r, then rolling will start, and then you can solve this problem from that perspective. So as I said, if you encounter questions on this nature where the ball is slipping, as you can see, whatever question comes, it will take some time for you to solve it. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to find out that much of time. So better not to believe in solving problems from rotation. You can always switch to another question which is simpler to solve. In rotation, you can only attempt those questions which are straightforward, which are in the form of multiple choice, where you have to give logical answers or things that you have read. Otherwise, rotation or for that matter, even mechanics becomes a tough prospect. So mechanics is one thing that is not going to help you in your so much in your JEE advanced unless and until the question is very simple. Don't trust mechanics. In the next class, we'll probably do with SHM. We'll only be doing that part in SHM, which I think is important. So we'll be doing those questions, and that's it from my side. If you have anything to say, you can say it now. Else the class is over.